Hello everyone and welcome to today's video, and we're gonna be making a very bold statement indeed, as the title says, the number one faction. I honestly think we've come to a conclusion on the best faction in the game. We're gonna go over all three of them, and at the end of the video will be the conclusion that will be the best. So strap in and listen to my thoughts on why the best faction in the game will be one of the three on screen. Hello, so yes, we're going to be going over everything to do with the three factions in the game and which one is honestly the best faction out of all three that I honestly think you can start with and keep all the way through, or you can either do a couple of meta shifts depending on your playstyle. So when we're going into the three factions, you get to start with, you have the Springwardens, the League of Order, and the Wilderburg faction. These three are the three starting races of the game that we know of so far, and all of them have their own unique benefits as well as their cons, right? So when we look at the Wilderburg, for example, they have their own faction bonus of 3% physical attack and that 10% destruction engineering, which is very key when it comes to PvP. These two faction bonus stats are actually very key when it comes to PvP combat, because it's going to allow your marchers, no matter what march you use, to hit a little bit harder compared to the other three, or other two, should I say, factions in the game. And the destruction engineering is allowing your marchers that extra 10% increase when destroying any enemy alliance forts, barricades, or even flags. So it's a very important stat to have because it does allow you to speed up the destruction process in PvP combat. When we look at the League of Order, the League of Order has a 3% Legion magic defense bonus, and this is a very good bonus indeed for your units, because it's going to allow all your units basically to tank more magical skill damage, which is one of the most key factors and most played unit types when it comes to PvP combat. Also, you get a 10% overall gathering speed. This is honestly a really good little buff that you get to have with the special units that you have at your disposal, which we will talk about after we go through the last one, which is the Springwardens. And the Springwardens are the elven race, and your faction bonus is one of the best in the game. They give you 5% Legion march speed, which is so beneficial in PvP and all the different types of PvE content that is available for you, as well as the elixir production speed of 5%, meaning you will be healing more often than any other player if they are not a Springwardens city. So those are the three major factions, as you can see. And when you do start out with your first choice, when you're picking one, you also get the starting hero. Even though it says your starting hero is not affected by faction change, this tooltip here seems to be wrong, or it might be a bug, because many reports have stated that when you do use your faction change, your main quest actual rewards will change too. So be wary when it comes to using that faction change for yourselves. But your starting hero, if you pick the Wilderburg, would be Bakar. And Bakar is an infantry based hero, really good for garrisoning your own city, and he could be used early game with possibly Nika if you're looking for trying to be some sort of DPS bruiser tank for your alliance. But when we go to the League of Order, you will unlock Wildeer, and Wildeer is amazing, guys. He's one of the best, if not the best, epic mage hero in the game, and someone could consider him, if you play Rise of Kingdoms, someone like Sun Tzu of the game. He's very good, he excels at amazing PvP combat, and he's a really good epic hero to actually pair with legendary heroes like Lilia and Valen too. So really good and versatile hero to pick if you're looking for that mage hero. But when you pick Springwardens, you will get access to Gwanwyn. And Gwanwyn is undisputedly one of the top 3 epic heroes in the entire game. And the reason is it does the most single target damage possible out of any of the epic heroes in the game, and that is honestly insane. Having this in your disposal for PvP is really good. Could you compare this with a Craig early on, or even a Nico when you unlock him through the golden key system? And then you have an amazing PvE raiding DPS match, since we all know when it comes to behemoths, the archer marchers do the most damage to a behemoth compared to someone like a mage or a cavalry. So that is the first basics of all 3, and everyone should know these type of tips so far. And we're going to go into the special units in a second, so I hope you've enjoyed the video so far. Smash a like, comment and subscribe if you made it this far through the video. And once we go through the special units, we're going to then talk about what faction I believe is the best faction in the game that you can start with and honestly keep throughout the entirety of your seasons, and possibly keep that Civ change for potentially a future, maybe new faction that they might bring out, as you guys know from maybe playing games like Rise of Kingdoms, where more future civilizations did occur and come into that game. So it could be a possibility with this. So it's always good to keep that starting civilization change and possibly just pick the best starting faction. So let's go into all of the special units. So when it comes to the units in the game, you always got to remember one key thing in this game compared to a game like Rise of Kingdoms or different other mobile kingdom builder games, and that is all the troops share the exact same stat line. That is correct. So any of the archers, infantry or cavalry or mage units, no matter what faction you are, will always have the same base stats. But in this game, you have special units, and that is because your units having the same stats have a different little ability tied to their units, which allows them to gain an advantage. In this game as well, we have infantry, mage, archer and cavalry units as the 4 main archetypes of units that you can have. And as well, there's a new 5th additional subtype, which is a flying march. This is a type of march which will be still a cavalry, archer or mage base march with the ability to have flying, and we'll talk about that when we get to one of those units. So when we look at all 3 factions, we're going to break down something really simple, really quickly, and that is the infantry units. All infantry units currently in the game share the exact same sort of ability, which is whenever they lose their troop count, they will increase their physical defense, meaning they are tankier against archer and cavalry units because this is a physical defense increase. If you look at someone like the swordsman, this is the exact same buff for them. If you read it, the description, you can pause the video right now if you really like to and just read the bottom end, and it shares the exact same. And we look at the Wilderburg here, and we have the axemen, and the axemen use the exact same ability. So at the moment they don't have any sort of craziness about them, but when we do look at the units themselves, axemen or infantry units have access to Rampage, and Rampage is a really cool ability. It allows you as an infantry player to hit any march, and when you do hit that march, you will give them a 75% movement speed slow for over 8 seconds. And the cool thing about this ability too, Rampage will bypass the cavalry ability called Unyielding Rush, which we're going to talk about right now. So when we go to the cavalry in this game all share, again, the very same almost ability stat line, apart from one faction, which is a little bit different in their approach. But when we look at the cavalry units for the Wilderburg faction and for the Knights, which is the League of Order cavalry, you both have the exact same ability, which is a cavalry melee based unit that has a physical attack increase when they enter battle, meaning you get that extra punch at the start of every fight, which is really key when we talk about the unyielding rush, which we will showcase just towards the very end of this section, and then we will move on obviously to the number one choice. When we go to the Springwardens, this is where things are going to be a bit more spicy. So when you look at their cavalry unit instead, they will also gain the same type of buff, but they will not have Unyielding Rush. Unyielding Rush is a melee cavalry specific buff that is only applied to those units. So a Elk Rider does not gain that Unyielding Rush, but instead they have a short amount of range instead, and they gain the exact same ability as the other cavalry units in the game, which is at the start of combat they'll increase their physical attack for a brief period. So from here we're going to go to the flying units, because this is where the units in the game start to have a bit of a differ and actually give you guys a bit more of a spiciness. Because when we look at the Springwardens, their flying unit is a cavalry melee based flying unit, so it also gains that same ability where whenever it enters the battle it's going to greatly increase its physical attack. But because this is a melee-based cavalry unit, it will also get access to Unyielding Rush. That is correct. So any of those flying eagles you see around will gain that 1k rage instantly if they are paired with the correct units for that flying archetype to maintain the flying buff. So when we look at flying units as well, before we move on, the reason flying units are so powerful in Call of Dragons, if you're not aware yet, the ability they have is to go over or basically walk wherever they want. They can go over rivers, they can move over mountains and go on top of terrain without having to walk around and go across a bridge, for an example. So flying units are very powerful in that regard, and obviously if you're looking to get any information on how to be better with flying units, stay tuned, because at the end of the video we're going to have a little tip and teaser at the end for a future video. So with this, we'll go to the League of Order. The League of Order's flying units is one of the scariest that we were using for a very long time. The Celestial units gave you a flying ranged magic unit, and it is a very devastating unit indeed, because the longer this is stood still in battle, it'll increase its magical attack, and it is a very powerful buff when that unit is stood still, able to just free hit without having to move. When we go into the Wilderburg's flying unit is the Wyvern Riders, and they increase their HP and skill damage whenever they are stood still, similar to the Celestials, but instead we have a archer based unit. So this is really cool, because if you're looking for some sort of double archer composition, because you're looking to use someone like Freygar and maybe Fear as a combination in Season 2 when you get access to it in the Stars Reignited campaign, the Wyvern Riders could be something that you might consider using for that march. So it's a really cool thing to have, and especially if you're trying to maximize all the marksman buffs that the units have indeed. When we look at everything else, there's little minor changes on the mage units. They all interact the exact same way, but they have a different buff. The mage units for the Wilderburg increase the attack of surrounding mage units. When you look at the mage units for the League of Order, you're going to gain health for all those surrounding units. That's a really powerful PvP buff. And when we look at the Springwardens, you can most likely guess it to finish the trifecta. These guys give you defense. So it's a really cool little nifty thing about there. And the last major change for all the units is the archers. The archers all behave differently and have a really cool buff depending on what you want. So archers increase their own physical attack, meaning your skill damage, what you're going to try and hit them with, will always hit harder because of the increase of physical attack. However, If you pick the League of Order, the League of Orders has the ballistas, and the ballistas don't increase their physical attack, but instead they increase their normal attack damage, meaning the white damage you deal, which is your normal and counter attack damage combined, is increased with the ballistas, meaning you always pack that consistent punch with the unit. The cool thing with the Wilderburgs, though, the Wilderburgs have the Spearmen, and the Spearmen increases all damage dealt to that enemy. So it means any of the damage from your other units that you have that are firing upon that same unit is going to be dealing more damage to them, allowing you to close down and finish off and kill certain units in the game. So let's go quickly over to the unit advantage system, and then we're going to talk about finally my honest opinion on the best faction in the game. So as we quickly was just saying, we're going to talk about the units. So as you can see, the units in this game has a unit advantage system, and this is why we talk about the 4 main unit types, because the flying unit is just one of these units with the ability to obviously fly. So that's why we try to explain it to you guys almost as a subclass. It's almost like a special ability for one of these units, but it still falls within this quad area of the tree. So when we look at the quad tree, when we zoom back in from bad internet connections here, we can click on any of the buildings that you choose when you go to train the troops and click the eye icon, and you're going to get access to the base stats of those units as well as all of the abilities. So when we look at the unit advantage system here, you can see the infantry here have the edge and beat any cavalry based unit. When you look at the cavalry, they have the advantage against marksmen, and the marksmen have the advantage against the mage units. As well, in here, if you click on your abilities, you're going to be able to see the rampage, which we was talking about for the infantry units here, given that 75% slow for 8 seconds. Also, if you go and check again in the Wolf Riders or for your Beast Pen or whatever your cavalry building is called for your faction, you can go to the third ability here called Unyielding Rush, and whenever your unit collides with that ranged legion, which is a marksman or mage unit, you're gonna instantly gain that 1000 rage factor. That's gonna allow you to hit that skill 1 instantly and take advantage of all those instant attack buffs that you have for your unit. So with all that said, let's move on and get into the best faction in the game. So yes, we've got to the final area, and thank you for watching so far. Smash a like, comment and subscribe to the channel for more Call of Dragons content with me, MrSneakyy. So the best actual end game and early game faction that I'm gonna say in the entire game so far is Springwardens. I'm not gonna lie, Springwardens is hands down, I believe, the best faction in the entire game. It's the best starting faction, it's the best faction for PvP, it's the best faction for PvE, it's just everything you want in a faction that is actually multi-purpose, and we're going to explain why. The cool thing with the Springwardens, and things which need to be explored a little bit more, but we are going to discuss about them, is their flying unit. Their flying unit, being flying melee and cavalry, is actually one which everyone hopes that can get a flying cavalry hero for them. However, I'm going to tell you guys here as a little sneaky peek before the video comes out, that the flying cavalry heroes currently, or should I say the flying cavalry, have their own meta already, and that is something very scary to say. And yes, there is already combinations that you can be running that even aren't cavalry heroes, but they can take full advantage of this ability, and some of those we'll consider will be Freygar, and Fear will be one combo that you could run with the Forest Eagles, which might sound surprising because they are a marksman march, but with the Fear as the primary and then having that Freygar behind, it is a deadly assassin for the flying cavalry units. So this is one of the most powerful units actually in PvP, and we're going to showcase this in a future video for you guys with a very expert player using it with some T5 Forest Eagles, so you can see how deadly this unit can actually be in the end game. The one thing with the Springwardens as well, another reason why they are the best faction in the game is honestly Gwanwyn. Gwanwyn being your starting hero is going to give you guys more edges and more opportunities to grow than you actually would think. The thing with your hero from the League of Order, Wilderburg, you will always, and I will promise you this guys, if you play through a season and almost your second season, I can guarantee Wilderburg will be expertise, especially if you focus on your heroes correctly, if you follow my Road to Glory series or any of my example or guides for a new player. When you get Wilderburg, he's an exceptional PvP hero, but again, you need him expertise to get that full power out for him. But when you have a Gwanwyn, you'll be surprised how powerful Gwanwyn is in the PvP area, because you're going to be able to get access to Craig and Gwanwyn in the early game, and this actual combo is so strong because you allow the Craig primary, when it's awakened, to do that insane AoE damage, and Gwanwyn is an exceptional hero, giving you 10% increased damage to all sources, and she gives you the best single target DPS in the game for a epic hero. Another reason why Gwanwyn is an exceptional hero is because of raiding. Because in a raid, as you guys should know by now, a behemoth needs consistent DPS. This is why a archer match always is in the top 5 in the DPS chart. You'll never generally see a mage player up there unless obviously it's a T5 player that's taking advantage of his tech compared to everyone else. But when you're all on a level playing field, as you can see it in the BD Alliance in server 32 or in my own alliance in server 2, you can always see it in the top 5 and 10 always a archer match. And Gwanwyn in early game is going to allow you, even in the smallest alliances, when you're trying to take out that behemoth for the first time, and with a amazing Gwanwyn and Craig combo, or even if you unlock a Nico, you're going to be able to use a Nico and Gwanwyn and honestly compete for that top 5 ranking. That's going to give you some extra keys and CP and speed ups to help your account. Another really key thing about this Springwardens, which I haven't mentioned yet, is the faction bonus. That faction bonus is absolutely crucial in why I believe they are the best faction in the entire game. Having a 5% Legion March speed for all of your units gives you an insane edge in PvP. It allows your units like the cavalry that you're going to be running and the flying cavalry that you can be running that extra speed to catch down and chase down any of those targets that you was looking for. On top of that, the march speed helps all your other marchers, like your mages that are always known to be quite slow, as well as the archers that are also known to be quite slow. You give them that extra edge to get away from anyone that's trying to chase them if they are not a Springwarden player. Also, this one faction bonus as well, just to give you a little bit of an icing on a cake, also mitigates a lot of hero talents. If you look at a hero talent page like Madeline, her center keystone says it will reduce your march speed by 2 or 3% march speed by having it unlocked, but you increase your own defense. Obviously, this is a really powerful talent stone because you get so much defense because of the reduced march speed. But with now the faction bonus of this, it already mitigates that debuff and you already still gain that 2% extra march speed. So you're already going quicker again than any of the other areas. On top of this, you get that 5% elixir production speed. This gives you an edge in PvP because it's going to allow you to heal quicker than any other player if they are not in the Springwarden faction. Again, 5% will add up with the new village management system in Season 1 Stars Reignited. Remember, in the villagers you will start with 5, but this can go all the way up to 20 or more villagers that can give you elixir production and elixir capacity for that PvP area. So it is a very powerful faction that you can have, and that is why I believe Springwardens is the #1 faction in the game. If we look at someone else, and you could try and argue, and what you could do is start with League of Order still. There is no hate for you, but I would always try and recommend using that civilization change for that Spring Warden, just because the Spring Warden is going to benefit you more in the long run. Even if you want to try and run more mage marches, what it allows you to do is train, if you want to, on more single target mage units. So then when you run out of stamina for example, your say Valen and Wilderburg match, you can still have a bunch of mage units still left over that you'll be using with your Lilia and your Alloin. You also have your Fear and Atheist there for another mage combo, so you can still stack a load of instant mage units, but they won't be having that flying kill it capability. However, just to give you guys a little bit more, the flying units, as we're going to discuss in a future video, has some insane combos, and with those combos, mage units do work with them, surprisingly, because of the instant close range combination of using Fear as the primary hero in that match. So this is honestly the whole guide on factions, as well as my #1 pick on all 3 of them. You can obviously debate what you like in the comments below. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on it. But again, I wouldn't advise picking Wilderburg. We've actually been playing with them right now, and I kind of want to switch back already to the Springwarden faction, because I feel like as a little like downside for the Wilderburg units right here, your Wyvern Riders are just a little bit too weak. They feel a little bit too squishy, and they're not that strong compared in damage compared to any of the other units. Especially the League of Order, the Celestials are way stronger than the Wilderburg's Wyvern Riders. So that's another reason we dislike the Wilderburg in that regard. The faction bonus for the League of Orders are good for most players. It gives you that gathering speed, so you can build up your account, but only giving yourself that one PvP based faction bonus is kind of a downside. And that's why, honestly, when you get to the mid and late game and you're doing a lot more PvP combat, you'll start to realize why you wish you had that 5% march speed and 5% extra production speed. That is an insane amount of stats, 10% extra bonus stats for no reason, and they have one of the best, if not the best, epic hero to start with, and some considerable amazing units for your liking. So if you enjoyed today's video, smash a like, comment and subscribe. And I am MrSneakyy, an official Call of Dragons content creator, giving you that content every single day. So if you've enjoyed it, thank you very much, and thank you for getting all the way to the end. As you guys know, and as I said earlier in the video, we're going to tease a little bit on some future videos. So we are going to be talking about a new series called the War Room. This War Room is going to be basically a little mini series we're going to be running with a lot of different PvP scenarios that we've recorded so far from the different servers we've been able to scout, as well as some small skirmishes, and then as well as some different topics to give you the PvP edge that you've been asking for from a channel. So I hope you're looking forward to it. It's going to be something what you guys have been asking for and enjoy, because again, you do like my open field commentary, and you're going to have a bit of open field PvP commentary within that, as well as learning how to actually control and be an effective unit in your alliance. So thank you for watching, and with all that said, stay safe, stay sneaky, peace out everyone.